Welcome to College Football Roundtable, your source for college football coverage, including major storylines,
playoffs,
can't miss game previews, and picks each week. Join your hosts, Dan, Rob, and Jordan at the roundtable for a show unlike anything else. As for Football presents the College Football Roundtable.
Unless you've been living under a rock, there is a 12-team playoff coming soon to college football. I think they're going to start a little bit early so they can work out the kinks, but then it'll really start counting in 2026. Michigan and Georgia both have big wins. LSU blocks a kick that probably gave most of their fans a heart attack, and that game was wild. But anyway, what a week for college football. Week one was great. What's up, Trash Talkers? Welcome back to the College Football Roundtable. Or if you prefer Ring Knocker Radio, and we may not have to change that moniker now because we actually got an NCO on here with Trigger Joe, who's calling in from Atlanta.
Hey, now.
We've got Dano Ikebasa in Coastal Connecticut, and I'm your host, Rob, the Angry Colonel. But how's it going today, guys?
Good, man. Crazy. What a weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, though, to be honest with you.
Joe, how about you?
Football came back around, man. It was absolutely beautiful. I got to watch a Michigan game with my father, which you guys, we all served. You know how it's not, the family times are real nice. So it was beautiful to be able to watch a game with my old man for once. So, yep, Michigan looked good, ish.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's everybody's comment this week. Like, hey, there's some good things and some bad things, but it is week one, so we'll figure it out as the season goes on. Dan, how about you? What games did you watch this weekend?
Probably my favorite game that Army was not involved with was UConn getting a win. They're still playing a true freshman quarterback, which I confess I do not understand, but hey, what are you going to do? And plus, Florida beating Utah in the Swamp. I thought that was cool. And then, of course, the game of the weekend was probably UNC at App State with the only onside kick returned for a touchdown I think I've ever seen. So that was crazy. But yeah, anyway, wild weekend. Yeah,
apparently they phoned in the defense on Saturday. And App State and North Carolina just decided to have a old shootout.
Yeah, absolutely. Track meet. Like,
I was watching that one with the Michigan game. That was highly entertaining football. I actually enjoyed Notre Dame and Ohio State, believe it or not. I like to scout our enemies. But
nice.
Ohio State, I tell you, the one thing they did that made me nervous is they looked a lot like Michigan in the fourth quarter of the Ohio State game last year. They said, all right, fourth quarter time, boys. We're bigger, stronger, faster. Now we're going to be bullies. I know Colonel Rob loved that because that's his favorite spot on the field. But they dominated in the trenches, but it was like it took them 2.5 quarters to wake up.
Yeah, I think that was pretty interesting game to watch just based off of how the play went. And for me, I'm disappointed that Oregon didn't play better. I expect more out of the Ducks in the first 10 games of the season. And then the last 3, I can just give those away because I usually think that they're going to fall flat on that. But the one thing that I think that is going to happen is Georgia has a Heisman sleeper in Stetson Bennett. That kid is legit good. I think he's been underpolled, overlooked, and he's got a chip on his shoulder this weekend or this season. So I think he's going to show up and play a lot better. And hell, he basically won the national championship for Georgia last year. And I think people have forgotten that. And he's going to make us all remember. And then the other thing is, as I was at the Coastal Carolina game, did not see very many mullets. So I'm kind of disappointed because Jordan on the As for Football show was talking about, how they're all hillbillies and rednecks. However, when you see hillbillies and rednecks, you expect the mullet to make a larger comeback. Because,
you're on the redneck Riviera down there.
Yes, for sure. And so I was expecting a lot more long hair. I was really looking to see somebody that kind of matched the old boy from Eastbound and Down. I was trying to see if I could get a little bit of that action, but did not show up. Joe, so before we move on into the top 10, you watched some games this weekend. Who's your Blue Falcon of the week?
Well, I'm not going to name any names until it's absolutely blatant, but I'm not going to blame 2 freshmen who can't even buy a beer either. I am going to blame the special teams coach at LSU because, sir, you make more money than I do. And everybody knows on an extra point, you don't block out on the edge. You block down. That guy's got the shorter route. So what do? You put a freshman there and a freshman kicking the ball. So my Blue Falcon of the week is LSU special teams coach, and I do know his name. Not going to out him, but you failed your team, sir. Get your Blue Falcon T-shirt.
Yeah, that sounds like a real prize that is not going to be coveted by most people. However,
those boys were not trained.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for them to play as well as they did and then to lose in on special teams. But I mean, special teams is one of the aspects of the game, and if you win special teams, you usually win the game, and that's exactly what happened. All right, let's roll into the top 10, Dan, if you don't mind.
Number 1, Georgia. Wow. It took a week of actual football for them to be number 1. What a world. Number 2, Alabama. No argument. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Michigan. Oh, you got some blood feud there. Number 5, Oklahoma. Number 6, Michigan State. Number 7, Oklahoma State, finally getting some recognition. Number 8, Texas A&M. Number 9, Baylor. And number 10, Clemson. It's early. I have no issues.
Yeah, it's early. The only thing, I still think Clemson's a little bit overrated, but their offense did perform last night against Georgia Tech. And hey, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to jump on the Clemson bandwagon just yet, because I just think that like they miss Trevor with the good hair, and they're.
How about they put the fourth wheel on that thing, and then I might consider taking a ride. Yeah, no way.
Sure.
Sorry. Hey, look, I'll say the same thing about Michigan, and Colonel Rob knows how much I love Michigan. I think 4 is too high for my boys. I don't like them up that high. That means somebody's going to knock their head off. So I don't like it.
Yeah, and I also think, and this is one of the things that's later on in the outline, but we talked about it last season. There were like 58 games where, ranked on ranked matchups, and there was a lot of turnover in the top 25. So if you're in the top 25, you are on notice from, preseason until the end of the year. But particularly if you're in that top 5 spot, like, people are gunning for you. And that is just a fact of college football. But we'll move on to the Service Academy. Hey, all 3 Service Academies played this weekend. Army lost a game where the offense outperformed the defense, which is very rare in the case of Army. Being at the game, biggest thing is I just don't want it to become a trend. I almost had a heart attack when they threw the interception. And really, like, honestly, if you wanted to see momentum shift, that was the game to watch. After that interception happened, like, all the momentum went to the Coastal side. But Army plays UTSA this week, so that should be a good one. Navy lost to the Blue Hens of Delaware. I really don't want to talk about that game other than the fact that it was abysmal on both sides. I mean, for a FCS team that is ranked as high as Delaware to play as crappy as they did, and for Navy to play as bad as they did, it literally should have been like 21-7 or probably 28-7, but
yeah,
Delaware couldn't capitalize on the turnovers.
Can I just point out one thing before you go on?
Yeah.
184 yards rushing for the mids, 2.9 yards per carry, 4 fumbles, 3 lost.
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah, like you're not going to win. They take on Memphis. Memphis is starting to become a powerhouse in the American, so they got some tough sledding this week. Don't expect good things out of Navy. At least not this week. Air Force beat Northern Iowa in an untelevised game, which kind of sucked because I would like to see some highlights. If they scored 48 points, I'd like to see who the threats were in that point. I think it's a shame because that game should have been televised, vice that heart garbage that we saw from Navy. And the Zoomies got the Buffs and in Colorado, so that should be no altitude game. So it'll be a pretty even matchup in that one. Commander-in-Chief's trophy status, real quick, no change. Thank goodness it's not based off of records, because if it was, Air Force would take it home today. Dan, we'll talk really quickly about the FCS academies.
Yeah, Coast Guard went 0-1 after losing their opening game to the University of New England. They are playing my wife's alma mater, Curry College. She did not graduate from there, but she did attend Curry for her first 2 years. Merchant Marine Academy is also 0-1 after losing to FDU Florham. Wow, these names on Parents Weekend. Oh, God, that's awful. They take on SUNY Maritime this Saturday at home. Guess I'm going to have to root for SUNY Maritime because I work with quite a few alum from there. Real question is, when does the Space Force Academy show up? The Zoomies have the Space Force unis this year for when they stomp Navy. They can stomp Navy in the Star Trek uniforms.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Hopefully they'll probably put Navy in red suits.
Speaking of Navy on a serious point, and I don't mean to bash the service academies, never do, but I will say this. With the amount of size and talent that they put on the field, Navy, if you're coughing up the ball, you have no chance. Because that is the one thing Army did right that year when they came into Michigan and almost beat Michigan at home. They don't cough up the ball. They don't make stupid. They don't lose games by turnovers. So if you got to fix that problem quick, or you're gonna have you're not going to be able to run the ball. And if you can't run the ball in your Navy, what can you do?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long season for them if they don't they have ball control issues as well as a pretty tough schedule. And because they're playing in a conference, everybody gets the same opportunity to prepare for them because they're scheduled. It's not like a team taking on Army, we scheduled them 3 years from now, and we don't see that type of option every week. So I think it's going to be interesting how it goes down. Talking about games of the week, really quick Friday Night Lights. You've got Louisville UCF. So if you guys are a former Scott Frost fan or Golden Knights fan, they'll be on 7:30 on ESPN2. You got Boise State at New Mexico. Those are your Friday night games. Noon kickoffs. You got Ohio. At first, I had to do a double take. I thought it was like Ohio State and Penn State coming out the gate. I was like, damn, that's a tough schedule for the Buckeyes. And then I went back and looked at it again, and I was like, oh, it's Ohio. Anyway, Wake Forest takes on Vandy. That'll be on the SEC network. Of course, UTSA and Army. You got Southern Miss and Miami. That'll be an interesting matchup, I think. And then moving on to the later kickoffs in the afternoon and evening, you've got Marshall taking on Notre Dame. That could be an interesting game. Like if they have a We Are Marshall moment and Notre Dame is still trying to shake off the cobwebs from, a great game. They played pretty tough against Ohio State, but hopefully they don't have a mental meltdown and get tripped up.
I think it's going to be the other way around, and Marshall's going to stumble into a wounded dog's backyard.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
That's exactly what I think's going down. I think I'm actually very comfortable with Notre Dame giving 20, to be honest with you. I don't know. I see what you're saying for a letdown game, but the talent I saw against Ohio State, they played them very, very tough for more than a half of football, and, the breaks were the breaks. So, I see them beating Marshall by 3 scores.
Yeah. Okay. And that's
just my guess.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup. Then, of course, I want to see this game based off of the way that they played West Virginia, Tennessee, and Pitt. So Pitt snuck into the top 25. They're 17th ranked, playing Tennessee. Again, Tennessee putting a whooping on Ball State. I mean, I don't know how to take that game because Ball State beat Army last year, and Army should have beat them pretty handily. But the whooping that Tennessee put on them. But this is not the second coming of T. Martin or Peyton Manning. So Tennessee fans, don't get too happy. I know, Dan, that you're a Tennessee fan, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to keep that momentum all season. Another game, USC versus Stanford. That's going to be a former Pac-12 once they move over to the Big 12. And then you've got ranked on ranked matchup with Baylor at BYU, which will be Ken Niumatalolo's new assistant coaching job after he gets booted from Navy this season. And I say that not jokingly because Navy is looking pretty bad. One of the things that we talked about last year, and it was a big discussion that we had all season long, was the ranked on ranked matchups. There was like 60 people that got bumped off during the regular season. This wasn't, playoff stuff. That's completely different. But in the regular season, you had 60 ranked teams kind of get bumped out. But other than that, we'll flip it back over to Dan. And what is your game of the week this week?
So, not to be a homer, but UTSA at Army is a super interesting game. One of these teams, top level mid majors, is going to start 0-2. That's a big deal, I think. I'm with you. Tennessee at Pitt might tell us something about the overall level of the SEC. Every year everybody says, "Oh, the Vols are back," and it's like Texas, like they're never quite back. Number 24 Houston at Texas Tech. Man, are the Cougars good? Like they looked like they were asleep for about 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden they dropped 17 points in the fourth quarter to actually go ahead with 38 seconds or 28 seconds left of UTSA. Dangerous way to live. And yet, if you watch Houston football, that's exactly what they do every week. And finally, number 20, Kentucky at Florida. Dudes are going to be saying the Gators are back if they win. So, yeah, I'm here for it.
For sure. Games that I'm going to watch, of course. Hey, look, I'll probably be watching the Buckeyes. I'm just watching to see if Arizona State or Arkansas State can pull it out and cover. The offensive performance wasn't so great out of Ohio State. I think it's going to take them another week or two because if you watched how C.J. Stroud was throwing, he was throwing like he was early last season too. A lot of low balls, a lot of wide balls, but not as accurate. I think he's going to fix that by the middle of the season. But I think Arkansas State might sneak in and get a second win and cover next week or this week coming up. Again, I like that Houston-Texas Tech matchup. Not going to dive too deep into that one. Arizona State and Oklahoma State. I think that one will be an interesting game on ESPN2 because Oklahoma State, is starting to become a powerhouse very, very quietly. They're not getting that national recognition. They're playing at 7:30, so that's kind of a middle of the night game. It's probably going to be it'll be a 4:30 kick at Arizona if they're at Oklahoma State either way. But Arizona State, really, really odd team. You know, they have streaks of brilliance and then they play like crap. We'll see which team shows up against Oklahoma State. Hopefully they rise to the occasion. It's a much tighter contest. And then Hawaii at Michigan. Everybody's dreading that one because if I'm Hawaii having to fly all the way to the Midwest, play in the big house, that's going to be a tough game, regardless of how good Hawaii is or not. I think playing in the big house it's a game changer for any team because it's orders of magnitude larger than any other stadium that they'll play in. But we'll pass it over to Joe. What games are you watching this week?
Yeah, I'll obviously catch some of the Wolverines game. You know, that if that stays close, then I probably won't watch it at all because I'll be grossed out by how awful that would be. But I honestly, I think Baylor going into BYU plus 3.5. Dude, I love that. I'll take Baylor plus 3.5 going into BYU. So I'll probably be watching that game because I'm probably going to lay a little bit of money on it. And I like Oklahoma State against Arizona, only giving up 11. To be honest, I think that OK State, it feels exactly like what you guys were saying. They feel a little bit like, all right, no one's giving us any attention. So they're getting a night game. They're getting an Arizona State team that's very vulnerable, and they can light up the scoreboard. And I didn't think they played that great against Central Michigan. So that was I think they backed. Well, yeah, they ended up giving up a ton of points because I turned that game off and then turned it back and was like, whoa, how did this happen? So I also like App State and going into Texas A&M because they're only calling that to be a 52.5 over under. They're going over that margin big time. Big time.
Yeah,
they're going to hang a big number up. It's going to be bigger than 52.5.
Yeah, it's going to be a basketball score in that one, I think. Those guys are going to play. And App State is surprisingly good as well. I think it's just a matter of you know, it's the track meet versus ball control. And sometimes that's going to be a race to 60. Whoever scores 60 points first is probably going to win that game, unfortunately, for, you know, the fans that have heart attacks every time that, you know, somebody is touching the ball. All right, well, let's pick some games real quick.
Weekly locks.
Quick. And Dan, what are your picks?
I went 1 and 2 last week. You know, like I said, Florida covered. Everybody else pretty much ate it. I took App State, and they covered plus 2.5, which is what I made on this show. But by the time I actually put it into the little thing for the cruiserweight title, the line had moved to plus 1.5, which that obviously did not cover. And then Houston, they didn't cover. Anyway, I took Army plus 2 at home. Talked about this a little bit more on the other show, but you know, Army gets 3 points for a home field advantage. Houston coming off triple overtime. That's probably worth a half point. UTSA going west to east, 2 time zones. That's probably worth a point and a half. All in, that's 5 points plus Army's getting to. Like, just the numbers of that are good, even though it wouldn't surprise me particularly if UTSA won by more than 2 points. Memphis minus 6.5 at Navy. Dude, I do not believe in that Navy team. I do not believe in them. And finally, La Tech minus 10.5 at Eastern Michigan. I'm sorry, versus Eastern Michigan, hosting Eastern Michigan. Like, I have no idea. That's a weird, like, La Tech is a good team. EMU, I don't trust. I don't know. I have no reason to think that's not going to be a blowout.
Yeah. So games I'm looking at really quick. Again, as I mentioned before, Arkansas State at Ohio State, I think they'll cover. I mean, 44 points is a pretty wide margin. And I think unlike some other coaches in the Big Ten and elsewhere in the country, I think Ryan Day lets off the gas as well. And we had talked about that before. You know, when you get up, keep playing the game, but then you let off the gas just because you want to preserve your players. You don't want to put your starters at risk and keep them in the game. Another game I'm eyeballing. They have it at 7.5 for Arkansas and South Carolina. So you got USC and South Carolina. That looks like a good game. It's 52.5 for the over under, but I'm going to take the points on South Carolina. I think they'll cover 7.5. The way that the offense looked, you know, I mean, Spencer Rattler, like, surprise, surprise, goes to a different team, different attitude, and he's playing a little bit better. So I'm going to give him the nod on that one. And then the last game that I am going to pick, which I am not 100% sure of at all, just because I think the line will move, is Forest versus Vandy. Vandy's 2-0 already because they've had 2 back-to-back weeks. So they played week 0 and week 1, and they're having them +8. I think I'm going to call the upset on that one. I think Vandy may actually freaking pull it out and upset Wake Forest.
Dude, no way. No way.
Hey, I'm telling you, I got a feeling in my gut.
Let's talk about this next week.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I may be breaking out my utensils and some pro.
We'll talk about this again, won't we?
Yeah, of course it's going to come back up. But I legitimately think like Vanderbilt is trying to build a better team, and that's all I will say. I won't say that they're back because they're not. They've never been a powerhouse in football. But if you can go 2-0, there's a little bit of confidence in there. You also have to think that Wake Forest is down their QB, so there's a chance. So that's all I'm going to say. And we'll pass it over to Joe. Joe, what are you thinking this week?
All right. Now, you warned me, don't do this. But I'm like a kid in an ice cream truck with money in my pocket. I got to pick every game. No, but I'm going to pick 4. All right. And I'm going 2 home chalks, heavy. Notre Dame -20 against Marshall. I think they make it very convincing, put it that way. I'm very comfortable with that. And Miami at home against Southern Miss, giving them 25.5. Southern Miss just lost to Liberty at home.
Mm-hmm.
Miami just looked like they had 4 or 5 4x100 meter Olympians running around out there. And I know who they played, but they lit it up, and I think they're going to roll. So I like Miami -25.5 at home. And then that App State Texas A&M game at 52.5. This is the numbers I just looked up because that South Carolina game, they're getting more points now. I believe it was at 8.5. So
wow.
So yeah, that line might move. The Notre Dame's line's already moved 1 point in a day. I expect it to move even further. So, but I got Texas A&M App State over 52.5, and I like Baylor getting 3.5 on the road at BYU. I think BYU is one of those teams that's like, yeah, we'll stick them in the top 25, but they don't really know. And I think Baylor's a legit top 15 team. They go in there and handle business, and they're getting points. I like them to win outright.
Yeah, it's a good question. BYU theoretically won the Pac-12 last year, even though they're independent. They're not playing a Pac-12 team, and that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. So I think this is pretty good. We had a really good discussion. My favorite thing I actually brought up on the other show as well. Just ran into one of my old soldiers that I hadn't seen in a long time. It's super, super cool. I got to sit down on the coastal Carolina side, and it was still the home side because I had somebody that I've known for years sitting with me, and we were getting to chat. One of the things that you can do is, like, if you're not a Patreon for Ask for Football, you should sign up. One of the reasons why is the Firsty Club. If you are in the Firsty Club, you get to chat with the Ask for Football team. Joe's going to be in there. He's going to be giving some notes on the midpoint kind of betting guidance. Right?
Yep. Check with me at halftime of the noon and 3:30 games because I always make a move, and I got in on Ohio State -7.5 last week, and boom. So there it is.
That's good. We got a bunch of inveterate gamblers in there. Like some of those dudes lay some real money every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, so
I hit a 5-team parlay. I mean, thanks to Pittsburgh and Houston. But I had a couple of nail biters at the end.
Yeah. So Joe's going to be our props and parlay guy. So if you like props and parlay bets in college football, you're looking at the guy who's going to be able to give you some insights on that and see what he's picking. I think this is going to be good for the season. Hey, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. It sucks that Army lost. It's great that Navy lost. It's kind of disappointing that I didn't get to watch the Air Force game. And then, of course, like, one of these things that they got to do is stop scheduling all the teams that I like at the same time.
You got to get more TVs. I had 3 TVs out there last weekend. Yeah,
that's a technique as well. But I think this is going to be a good season. And yeah, Joe, we appreciate having you on. This is going to be
man, I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be another thing that we're going to be doing. Again, cruiserweight title is on the line. Somebody's got to pick up the strap, and then we may have a Money in the Bank swimming contest, so Dan can win it back at the end of the year.
You're about to see my picks in week 3 and on get real Big Ten heavy once I can scout these boys a little bit. But that is going to be my specialty because that's where I make my bread and butter is when the Big Ten conference starts. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I enjoy doing this, and I think the other part of it is like once the parlays start happening, I got to start researching into those because parlays and props are part of betting now, and a lot of people make some good money on taking that risk because you can bet $10 and make 1,000 if you get the right if you hit the right parlay. So for those of you guys that are bold, stay tuned. If you guys are not bold, just watch the games. If you don't have the money to bet, don't bet. That's the first part of admitting that you have a problem is don't doing it. But if you got the cash and you're looking to generate a little bit of revenue passively through your sports gambling, this is the show for you. But the reality of it is this is Rob the Angry Colonel. You got Trigger Joe here and Dano E. Cabeza. We are closing out the College Football Roundtable for this. God, it's already week 2. Can you believe it? Like, bam, football season is in full effect. And we thank you guys for checking us out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Beat Navy.
Thanks for listening to the As for Football College Football Roundtable. Please join us again soon for another episode of the College Football Roundtable, and be on the lookout for the next Army football show. Please continue to follow us on all social media platforms at As for Football. We thank you for your continued support of As for Football, the Black Knights football team, and Army athletics. And as always, beat Navy.